Living fearless and yet living wise. Hello, y'all. I'm Diana Brienne, old age and living fearless. Well, I got to thinking today about as we grow older, how often older people become fearful. I've seen a lot of it. A lot of older people, the older they get, for some reason, it seems like the fear factor kicks in more so than when they were young. You know, I know when I was young, it seemed like I was fearless, and probably I should have had more fear in me than I actually did, but I didn't. And I mean, I was still wise. I made smart choices and things like that. And yet, I was kind of fearless. When I think about it, I moved it as a teenager out to Hollywood from the Appalachia Hills and had a little Samsonite green suitcase. And away I went to Hollywood. I probably should have been a lot more fearful than I was. And some of the things I did along the way, driving downtown in LA at midnight, by myself. I wouldn't do that again, especially even now. So I think that, you want to be fearless and yet you want to be fearful when you need to be in a healthy way. Fear is to protect us, healthy fear. But most people don't have healthy fears, they have unhealthy fears, which means a healthy fear would be like if a bear was charging at you through the woods. That's a healthy fear to get out of its way. But unhealthy fear are things that either probably are not going to happen or that, that are very minor. Like, oh, what happens if I get in front of an audience and I start talking and people boo at me? Well, for me, that's an unhealthy fear. It's okay. Or what if I put a YouTube video up and I get nasty comments? To me, that's an unhealthy fear. I'm not going to let it stop me from making my videos or getting up in front of an audience or living my best life. So I think fear used in the right way is there to protect us. Okay, so it's a natural instinct that is a healthy one for protection purposes. But when it gets out of control and stops us from living our best life and making right decisions and choices, then it's probably an unhealthy fear. And so I believe in respecting fear, but healthy fear. I don't believe in embracing unhealthy fears. And so, but what I do see a lot of is older people do become fearful. And I understand it because I'm an older person. I'm pushing 70. They're fearful of health issues. They're fearful of death because most young people don't think about death, but a lot of older people do. Most young people don't think about sickness, but older people often do because, well, things are starting to wear out and change and the body changes. And often older people worry about finances because, well, maybe they don't have a job anymore and they're solely living on, their retirement. And so there can be real challenges in the older years that weren't there when they were younger. Okay, that can be, and I understand that. And yet, to live fearful is going to hold us back. It's going to freeze us in place. And, to live our best life, we want to be smart in all the decisions that we make. We don't want to make stupid decisions or careless decisions. We want to make careful decisions the older that we get. And yet, we don't want to live our lives in a bundle of fear. Okay, that's an unhealthy thing to do. For me, I don't worry about death. I don't worry about sickness. I know that they exist. Death is gonna happen to everyone at some point. I don't welcome it any sooner than it should come. But when that day comes, it'll be what it will be. I'm not going to live my life in fear of it. I'm going to live my best life and I'm going to live my life fully. I'm not going to worry about sickness. I'm very proactive in taking positive, great care of my health. And yet I realize that things can wear out and the body changes as we get older and I may have to deal with issues. I hope not, but I may. And that's just part of it, but I'm not going to be fearful of it all. I'm going to make right decisions to the best of my ability. And I think when we're making right, competent, great decisions, often we don't have to be fearful. Fear is a natural instinct. And even unhealthy fears, I understand why people have them. I grew up around a lot of people that had a lot of unhealthy fears. They really did. They had a lot of unhealthy fears in their life. They feared not having enough money. They feared even being cold, because some of them grew up in the Great Depression, and they, I knew one in particular who was always afraid that, someone was going to be cold, because I guess they were cold when they grew up. They didn't have, enough heat or whatever, and they were fearful of not having enough food. And so I understand where fear comes from, and yet we don't want to let it run our lives. And so when I say fearless living, I'm saying competent, smart choices, great decisions, careful decisions. That is very important, because the older that we get, often it's harder to rebound from any kind of mistake. So we want to be careful in any choice that we make. And yet, at the same time, we don't want to live in a ball of fear. And so that's what I mean by fearless living. It's competent, great, right choices for our lives. And if we have to go through a challenging, difficult time of any kind, we make the best decisions that we can, and we keep our faith. And when days are good and everything is working well, we celebrate, we enjoy. For me, I live one day at a time. I used to say, well, I'm going to live to 100. I want to live to 100. I didn't say I was going to live to 100. I said I wanted to live to 100. That's my goal. And of course, I would love that. I hope that's so. But instead of focusing on the number 100, I focus on each day. I'm grateful and thankful for every day that I get up, for every day that I have great health, for every day that I feel good, for every day that I have the people around me that I love and that they're safe and I'm safe and everything is going good. I cherish those days. I don't take any of them for granted. And when things are difficult, I do my very, very best at making right decisions. But I don't let fear run my life. I use healthy fears to protect me, and I avoid unhealthy fears to the best of my ability. Okay? From my house to yours, may God bless you. I hope you like, share, subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Bye-bye.